We bring in Etan Thomas, radio host and former NBA player who joins us from New York City. First of all, I want to ask you, Etan, in your time in the league, you are a rather outspoken player in terms of issues and so forth, and a thoughtful person. How did you feel about that relationship between you as a player and owners and all of the verbiage around it, never mind the personal interactions?
Well, I had a great relationship with Ted Leonsis. For my book, We Matter, Athletes and Activism, I was able to actually interview Ted Leonsis and Mark Cuban. And I don't refer to them as owners. I refer to them as CEOs. And I make that point to refer to them as CEOs. And like you said, language does matter. I mean, you wouldn't have a predominantly Jewish league, and make references towards the Holocaust. You just wouldn't do that. Even if it's something that is, some people think is a stretch, but you wouldn't call them. I think that when you're looking at terms that are used, you have to be sensitive to the people who are predominantly in the league. And, I think it's something that's not necessarily something that people should just gloss over. I think words definitely matter. Language matters.
Your generation is one. Draymond Green's is another. What did you first think when he brought this up a couple years ago and brought it back into national conscience, if you will, as a discussion point?
Well, I was glad that he brought it up. And, he has a strong voice in the league. And I'm glad that he has the courage to be able to say something no matter what the backlash. And he received a lot of backlash from it. Mark Cuban said that he should apologize, and I'm glad that he didn't apologize. And I was able to interview Commissioner Adam Silver for my book, and Adam Silver is a lot different than David Stern. He's a lot more progressive. I asked him if he would even punish anybody for using their voice and their platform to speak out on issues that he disagreed with, and he said no, of course. He talked about the history of athletes using their voices and using their platforms, the respect that he has for it, and Bill Russell and Kareem and whatnot. Like I said, he's different than David Stern. People have to remember David Stern, Craig Hodges and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf were blackballed under David Stern. So, I think that you'll see Commissioner Adam Silver kind of move towards, as he hears the voice of people like Draymond Green repeating that language does matter, I think you'll see a change. So right now, I think the Clippers and one other team are the teams that don't use it anymore, and you'll see more.
Do you sort of wish maybe you'd played in a league like this at this time where you could have been a little bit more outspoken? I mean, I know it might not have been your personal style, but it's a different thing now from a wokeness standpoint.
Well, for one, players that play like me are kind of like the dinosaur now. Everybody that's my height wants to shoot threes, so it's a little bit different. But it's a beautiful time in the league as far as activism. You have athletes using their voices, and as I'm going around the country speaking in different universities, we're talking about how athletes are using their voices and their platforms right now. LeBron, you have D. Wade, you have Carmelo, Russell Westbrook, all these different athletes, and they're not afraid right now. So it's a beautiful time, and they have their own social media. LeBron has just as many Twitter followers as Trump. So, he can say what he wants to, and a lot of people will hear it. It's just a special time.
Last thing I'll say, what do you think is going to happen very quickly in order for more people of color to move up the ranks into not just ownership positions, but front office ones as well?
I think the NBA is doing a lot in that area, of course, light years ahead of the NFL. Not to compare us to the NFL or anything like that, but it's getting better. And you see a change happening, and you see more black people in positions of power as vice presidents, as presidents, as upper management, and it's going to keep going. Hopefully the NFL can catch up a little bit, but the way the NBA is going, it's in a good direction.
Etan Thomas, thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.